Welcome to Life in Calgary, Alberta. I'm your host, Patrick Murray. And guys, today we're going to talk about something that's been trending in the national news media. And if you've been watching the news media, you know that you've been hearing that real estate prices in Canada are dropping. Now, something that's really important to understand is real estate prices should be considered on a regional basis because it is very much a regional sort of industry. Different districts, different areas, different cities, different communities even have different things going on in them. So by painting the whole of the country with one paintbrush, that's not accurate. So if you're only getting your news from the national news media and you're not paying attention to what's happening in the city that you're considering, then you're only getting a very small part of the story. And I'm going to demonstrate that today as we look at the national news media, what they're reporting and what's actually going on here in Calgary and what's being reported here in the city of Calgary. Now guys, before I do that, if this is your first time in this channel and you want to know everything there is about what it's like to eat, sleep, breathe, live, and play in Calgary, Alberta, then guys, just hit that little bell and click that subscribe button so you get notified every single time I release a new video. Now guys, I got to tell you, I moved to the great city of Calgary in 2001. I've lived in a number of different places, but you know what? Calgary is stuck because I've been here that long. But I've been a realtor here since 2010, so I've got some specialized knowledge about the city of Calgary and the surrounding bedroom communities such as Chestermere, Airdrie, Okotoks, and Cochrane. So if you are considering a move to one of these communities and you would like some assistance to purchase a home, my information is below. Feel free to send me a text, an email, phone call. I will absolutely get back to you. All right, guys, let's get into this right now, this trending topic about what's happening with real estate in Canada, but what's really happening here in Calgary, Alberta, right after this. You know, we rely on the media to get our information and our news, and because we trust the media outlets, we think this is gospel and this is exactly what's going on in Canada. So let me give you an example. I live here in Calgary and I have a colleague who is showing some properties to a gentleman from Montreal. Now, the gentleman from Montreal kept lowballing offers on the properties that he was looking at and losing each and every time. And he said, I don't understand. He said, prices in Canada are supposed to be falling. Why aren't my offers being accepted? Well, it's because he's relying on what he's been hearing in the national news media. But that's not so here in the city of Calgary. In fact, Alberta as a whole is doing much better than what's being reported nationally. And certainly I can speak to Edmonton. I know exactly what's going on up there. I know that they're in the same situation that we are, that their prices have been rising and they're doing very well. But the same is true here. Calgary prices are not falling. And I'm going to demonstrate to you what's going on and what's being reported by using a few different charts. So I know the national media gets a lot of their information from the Canadian Real Estate Association, and they have some charts and graphs. And I know that I'm going to show those to you today to show you what's being reported nationally, and then I'm going to show you some information from the Calgary Real Estate Board to show you what's actually happening right here in our city of Calgary. Okay guys, so like I'd mentioned earlier, the national news media gets a lot of their information from the Canadian Real Estate Association. Now, of course, the Real Estate Association is looking at numbers all across Canada. I'm a little confused on some of them sometimes of how they come up with them, but that's not for me to judge. But I will kind of demonstrate as to what's been going on the last little while. So this chart here is the residential price chart in Canada, taking into consideration all of the prices throughout Canada. So that's, you know, inexpensive real estate to expensive real estate. So it incorporates, you know, places like Saskatchewan, Prince Edward Island, you know, the Maritime provinces all across, and then, you know, those much higher prices in places like Toronto and Vancouver that have a lot of transactions and have a lot of very, very expensive real estate. Now, altogether, it comes up with this price chart. Now, we have average prices and we have something called benchmark prices. So average prices are what's going on from month to month in the real estate market with pricing. And of course, we all understand averages. But
The benchmark price is a more stable way of talking about pricing because it looks at price trends. So, for example, in one month, there could be really skewed data because maybe there have been a lot of multi-million dollar sales and that could skew the data. Or it could be the reverse. Maybe there weren't enough and there were a lot of, less expensive sales in a month that could skew the data. So the benchmark price chart looks at the average price of a Canadian home. So the average home, I should say, it looks at the price of the average Canadian home in Canada and comes together with a price chart trend. So in this chart here, we can see that it goes back to 2005. And let's jump all the way, let's see, 2019, just before the pandemic. And you can see, prices in Canada were, above, around 450, 475 on average. But the benchmark price was more like, 525, 540, that sort of thing. And then in 2020, it kind of went up and down a little bit, and then it started to take off into 2021 and 2022. We can see prices were, well above 800,000, approaching 850,000 for the benchmark price of a home in Canada. Now, again, taking into account Toronto and Vancouver, and then we can see that it's dropped kind of in January of 2022 and 2023, and then a little blip up, but now it's coming back down again according to the average. And if we look at the benchmark too, we can see that it kind of spiked, early in 2022, and then it's gone down even into 2023. Now, this is different than what we've been reporting in Calgary because our prices have been more of a chart like up, up, up. And it's still climbing even last month. So not to the 900,000 range, but it's certainly our chart isn't looking like it's going in a downward spiral. And I'll demonstrate that to you a little bit later. Now, this is the residential price chart. Let's take a look at another chart that we have here. So this is the residential market balance chart. And what that does is it looks at months of inventory and it looks at sales to new listings ratio. So months of inventory is how long it would take for us to sell out of the current inventory on the market. So we can look, in 2018, it was just probably above 5 months, 5.1, 5.2 months worth of inventory in Canada. And this is the blue here that we're looking at. Then a big spike, close to 10, over 9 months, approaching 10 months of inventory back in 2020. This would be when the pandemic first hit, and then we can see it kind of relaxed somewhat, not down to where it was trending, but then you can see that it really trended down. Now, certainly people may not have been putting their houses on the market during this time, or people thought, what, now is a great time to upsize my home, right? I need a home office. I don't want to be working. I don't want to be working at the office, or I'm not working at the office, so I need a home office. So maybe they were looking at changes, but we can see that the month supply went way down. In fact, it spiked below 2 months across Canada in 2021. And same thing in 2022. And then we can see month supply has gone up, 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 and relaxed a little bit. Now it's starting to trend upwards again. And in Canada, as of the end of July, they're reporting that, we've got, probably 5.5+ months of inventory on the market in Canada, and that's how long it would take us to sell out. Now, the sales to new listing ratio takes into consideration the number of sales versus the number of new listings, and we can see that it was quite high in 2021 and into 2022, and it has taken quite a dive, and then it went up, and now it's coming down. Now, again, I'm going to show you some other charts from the Calgary Real Estate Board, how we very much differ from what's being reported here in Canada. But if you're getting your news from the national news media, or if you're relying on that as gospel and painting Canada with the same paintbrush, it just isn't accurate. So from the Canadian Real Estate Association, this is the residential sales activity in Canada. Now, this isn't prices. This is the number of sales occurring in Canada. And it goes back to the first quarter of 2018, and you can see it ends here at the end of August 2023. And you can see that, the highest points in third quarter 2020, fourth quarter 2020, first quarter 2021, that there were a lot of sales happening. They were approaching 750,000 sales in Canada in the first quarter of 2021. And then it's kind of relaxed, went up a bit, and now since 2022 in the second quarter, it's been going down, down, down. Little blip in the second quarter of 2023, a little bit higher, and now one might think it's trending downwards. We're around just over 450,000 sales in Canada in August 2023. So there are some reasons of this. Of course, we know that inflation has been, a real sore spot for not only our nation, but the United States as well. And because of that, Bank of Canada has been raising rates, which of course affects mortgage rates, which of course affects affordability, what people can afford to spend, and people are tightening their purse strings. So of course, we're going to see some changes in some of the pricing, and or pardon me, some of the sales activity. But the other reason why the sales activity is we just don't have a lot of product here in Canada. If you've been paying attention to the media, and this isn't just a national thing, but even locally, is we need more houses to sell, and that includes new builds because we have a lot of people moving to Canada. And finally, we have our residential average price year over year percentage change. So this represents the percentage of change from August 2022 to August 2023. So you can see that, in this year's time, for example, Canada has had a sales price increase of just over 2%. We can see Saskatchewan, it appears that they're reporting in negative territory, probably around minus 1.5%. In Ontario, you can see that their residential average price changed just over 0%, not even 1%, probably not even 0.5%, but not very much. You can see New Brunswick had a huge change in the last year. And I think this speaks a lot to affordability, people moving out of the centers where they can't afford to purchase a home. The same thing can be said for Nova Scotia. Now, in Alberta, you can see that we're reporting a change here year over year of just over 4%, maybe 4.5%. I'm going to show you why that is not an accurate number. And in BC, they're showing BC has had a huge increase, or a larger increase than Alberta, even at just over 5%, which I'm not sure if that's exactly accurate either, but I'm speaking to Alberta. So this is what's being reported in the national news media. This is the source they're using. And now we're going to take a little bit of a closer look at what's happening in Alberta specifically. So now that we've looked at, what the national media has been reporting and where they're getting their data from the Canadian Real Estate Association, now we're going to look more regionally. In fact, we're going to drill right down to the city of Calgary and look at the statistics from the end of August of 2023. Now, before we jump in, let's just look at some little charts here. First off, the sales in August were 2,729 sales in the month of August. Now, year over year, that is up 27.9%. That's just the number of sales. And let me just take a look here, guys. So, that's a high number in Alberta, and certainly not reflective of probably what's happening in the rest of the country, because the number of sales is way up, right? People are hungry for homes here. We need more homes. Now, new listings. There were 3,131 new listings. Now that's up year to year 15.2%. Okay, so even though this is up, let's look at our inventory though. The inventory is 254 units. So this encompasses everything: houses, semi-detached homes, which are duplexes, if you will, row houses, which are townhomes, and then condominium apartments. In fact, inventory levels in August dropped to this number, this 3254. And it's not only a record low for the month, but below the 6,000 units that are typically available in our city at this time. So that's really saying something. And then we'll come down here and we'll look at months supply. So the month's supply is, if we sold out of all the inventory that we have currently, would be just over 1 month. It'd be 1.19 month worth of supply, which is down greatly, 46.9%. Now, let's look at what's going on with pricing in the city of Calgary. Total residential, so this takes into account detached homes, semi-detached homes, the row homes or townhomes, and the apartment condominiums, is $570,700. Now, year over year, this figure is up 7.9%. And in fact, um, uh, this represents the eighth consecutive monthly gain, and prices have trended up across all property types. And actually, our row style properties are reporting the largest increase in what's going on. So let's see here, guys. If we look at the total residential price, we in Canada they were saying that it's dropping, right? So if you're looking at the national news media, you're thinking, oh, now's the time to strike because prices are dropping. Well, guys, not in Calgary. Prices are going up. And it's hard to get this right because, at the CREB forecast, the Calgary Real Estate Board's CREB forecast at the beginning of the year, the forecast was saying they were estimating that prices were going to remain relatively flat in 2023. In fact, we might even see a small pullback into negative territory. So not even an increase in prices. We might even see a 1 or 2% decrease in prices. Well, here we are. We're at the end of these stats are from the end of August because this is September when I'm talking about this. So we don't have end of September stats yet, but you can see that our prices are up 7.9%. So who's to believe, right? I mean, it's very difficult to predict what's going to happen in a market. What's going to happen in the future? I don't know. All I can tell you is where we've come from. Now, where does this number come from? Well, it comes from all of these, the detached, the semi-detached, the row, and the apartment pricing. So to buy a detached home in Calgary, benchmark price is $696,700. Now, that's much more affordable than that when what's being what the Canadian residential price average is, which is they were saying it was, if you look at the aggregate composite, was 750,000. So we're more affordable in that way, if you look at that. And that's up 10.3% just for detached homes. If we look at the semi-detached, which are kind of like duplexes, the benchmark price here is $623,200, which is up 10.1% year over year. And then if you look at the row house pricing, the benchmark price is 413,200, and that's up 15.7% year over year. And then the apartment condominiums, where we've had an oversupply of this product for a number of years through 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, going 2019, so on and so forth. And here we are with a 13.5% year over year increase in pricing. And then we can break it down into sectors. So remember when I was saying real estate is very regional? Well, even when you get into the city of Calgary, you can't paint the whole city with the same paintbrush. So the benchmark price for the city is $570,700, but these are the 8 districts. So in the city center, it's 596,700. In the west, 698,500. That's the highest area. Then the northwest, 611,200. The north, 542,600. The northeast, 480,200. The east, 393, 400. The southeast, 560, 300, and the south, 552, 800. And look at the percentage increase. So year over year in the city center, up 2.3%. Now, 2 to 3% is what one might expect to make in real estate on a yearly basis. However, that's not what's happening in our city. If you look to the west, it's up 10.5%. In the northwest, it's up 9.6% year over year. In the north, 8%. In the northeast, it's up 14.3%. And look at this. This is one of our more affordable areas of the city is the east. And look, prices are up 19.8% year over year. And then in the southeast and the south, we're up 7.9 and 7.7%. So the take-home message is, yes, listen to the news media, but if you're really interested in the topic, do a deeper dive. Look at the region itself. Look at province. Look at the city. And then when you're ready to make your move, talk to a professional and look at the areas to get the best picture of what's actually happening in real estate.
So guys, like I said, if you are considering a move to the city of Calgary or one of the bedroom communities and you would like some assistance to purchase a home, feel free to reach out to me. My information is below. Send me a text, an email, a phone call. I will absolutely get back to you so you can live your life in Calgary, Alberta.